Sure.
Okay, this is John Anderson on Patriots Wheels. We're on Roar Restoration of America on Spreaker Radio. I'm John Fireball Anderson here with George Tankham and Mark Morrison.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Yeah,
we've had a interesting first. Yes, we've had an interesting first half hour, and hopefully our second half an hour will be just as interesting as our first. A lot of discussion about a lot of different topics.
Yes, we have, and this is actually our first show. We've had a few technical difficulties in the past, and I see that we're all coming in clear, so I'm hoping this is a good show that we're having here, and you're in on the first one, and hope to have many more every Sunday night from 7 o'clock till 8 Eastern Time. And we're doing 1 hour shows right now, and we're going to bump it up to 2 hours here in a few weeks. And you can find us on Facebook.
See,
Go ahead, George.
And people can call in. Is that correct?
Well, they're still working out the details on that. We haven't been able to accept any calls yet, so I guess the group is still working on the call-ins. But we will have call-ins, yes. And you can call in, hopefully soon, pretty quick down in the future here, that you can call in on Skype, or you can call on your telephone, from home, or your cell phone too. And we'd be glad to take some calls later on when we get this going.
Hey, while we're just talking, the three of us then, I'd like to ask your opinion. What do you think are the most important concerns to motorcycling and primarily motorcycling rights?
Well, George, I think there's a couple of things out there that are probably on people's minds, and I think it ranges to everything from the fuel that's available for motorcycles to rider safety and what laws may or may not be passed as far as helmet legislation and other issues that are out there. I think they're big issues for the riding public in general.
Yeah, I agree with that also.
Yeah,
about the fuels. Go ahead.
In the past, there's been some huge concerns about insurance. Some people consider the insurance industry the biggest threat to motorcycling because insurance companies that don't insure motorcyclists, if one of their insured motorists injures a motorcyclist, they have to pay. So that if they can encourage legislation that would limit or reduce injuries, that would reduce their payout. And also, if they had legislation that was restrictive for motorcycling activity, that means fewer people would engage in motorcycling. So when you have fewer targets, you got fewer people being hit, and the insurance company wins. So that their idea is the purpose of this legislation basically is to promote insurance industry profits. And the second type of insurance issues is where employers provide insurance for their employees. It's cheaper for them if there's restrictions on that insurance, so that you're not covered by the insurance if you engage in skydiving, if you engage in horseback riding or in motorcycle riding, that type of thing. So that's a very serious that's a threat to motorcycling. And out west, there's a huge concern about off-road access. That there's huge tracts of land that used to be available for multi-use recreation, including dirtback riding, ATV riding, that has now become inaccessible. The park. Let's see. It's part of the Department of Interior. So what is it? The U.S. Park Service? Yes, Park Service has restricted motorcycle use on lands that heretofore had been available. And I think one of the things that we got to recognize, even though that's not always, that's may not be quite as big an issue here in Illinois, it's still an issue in Illinois, but maybe not quite as big as it is, say, in Nevada or California, that we need to stick together on these issues. We need to have our legislators in Washington, D.C., protect the rights of all motorcyclists, not just the ones in Illinois, but the ones in California, Nevada, places like that. So I guess, I've written down 4 things of issues. And I guess this is where the call-ins would be great too. But go ahead. Was it John that's starting to talk? Or
well,
Mark?
George, I was just going to say another item out there, and we've already kind of touched on it, is the noise issue with motorcycles. That seems to be gaining a lot of steam lately.
Yes.
Yeah, California seems to have a big decibel deal on their motorcycles out there, especially on the dirt. Where you can have only so much loud decibels. I prefer to have loud pipes. Even though a couple of my bikes don't have loud pipes, I really believe that people can hear them, especially on the streets, and even on the dirt, you can hear them too. Somebody coming up behind you or somebody coming from a different direction. So the loud pipes is not a big issue, with me when, because they're the louder the better for me. But I know that there's people that live in communities or in cities or whatever, and, if you're on the street and somebody's riding down the road at 2 in the morning and they get into it and it wakes up, some community or something. But still, I believe in loud pipes. I'm for it.
Well, and John, I think
enough,
the issue there is not so much the loud pipes as the way people ride, and you kind of talked about it. In the middle of the night, don't go through a neighborhood revving your engine. You can ride off the peak power and not make nearly as much noise.
Yes, I'd like to ride nice and easy. Especially if I'm out that late when I get into it, because when people get into it, they're just asking for trouble. And I've seen that down in Daytona more than anything. People getting into it in the loud pipes and everything else, and 2 in the morning, cops are pulling you over. I've gotten a ticket from somebody else one time up in Clinton, Iowa. Somebody was rat racing it around a block away from me. I'm the one that got pulled over and got the ticket. It wasn't even me getting into it. But I ate it anyhow. So, yeah, a lot of people, get a little excited and and sometimes they bring it upon themselves.
Oh, well, in places like Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, where you have the sound just reverberating off those buildings, it's like riding through an echo chamber. It doesn't truly magnify the sound, but it seems like it. So there are some places that are a lot more sensitive than others.
We got to admit, it sounds cool, though. You're going down under a nice tunnel or a bridge. But you know what? There's a place to do it and a place not to do it. The way I kind of look at it.
Right. Well, and also, when you arrive at a destination and there's a crowd of people and you can blip your throttle and the crowd hears you and they part like the Red Sea before Moses. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you get everybody's attention right then.
Mm-hmm. Hey, there's another issue we haven't talked about. That's the way I roll, baby. Hey, there's another issue we haven't really talked about that much, and that's globalization, where there's a effort. I keep thinking of it coming out of Germany, but you see it around the world, and the major motorcycle manufacturers pretty much are in favor of this because it makes it cheaper for them. So you have one world standard for all motorcycles. Well, believe me, I do not want the U.S. motorcycles to be held to the same standards that we see in some of the countries in Europe. It's inappropriate here. It's too restrictive. But if you're a motorcycle manufacturer and you only have one market to design your motorcycle for, it's a lot cheaper because you create just one motorcycle instead of, if you have 6 different markets, you have to have 6 different variants, and you lose a certain amount of efficiency when you have to have 6 different designs. But for us, not only does it mean something as far as individuality of machines, but it also puts a huge restriction on what kind of aftermarket stuff you can put on your bikes. I've seen it go so far as tires. And one of the things that makes our economy work is the idea of competition. If you have globalization standards where there is no competition and monopolies are guaranteed these companies, it's not going to be good for us owners. So I see that as an issue that we have to guard against. This kind of reminds me
that. I was going to say, George, I see the world moving in that direction. I mean, and our country seems to be moving in that direction to try to be more similar to especially the European countries in a lot of ways, in the socialistic ways, and some of the ways that public administration is done.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why it's important for United States motorcycle rights organizations to work with their European brethren. It gives us an idea of what's going on. We don't want to find out for the first time when our president puts a proposed treaty before Congress and says, hey, sign off on this so that we can restrict how motorcycles are built and operated in this country. But if we're involved from the get-go with these people, we stand a much better chance of, well, number one, understanding what's going on, and number two, being able to